Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cryptonized. Today, joining me is Michael Benzaken, and we're going to talk about how he got into crypto. We're going to talk about what's going on at Celsius, and most importantly, we're going to talk about bad actors in crypto and what to do about them. So with that, Michael, will you give us just a brief introduction on yourself before we jump in?
Yeah, the villains in crypto. Let's go get after the villains in crypto. Yeah,
Villains.
absolutely. Yeah. No, yeah, yeah, we got a work cut out for us, right? So, in short, like I started out chair CEO of a multinational life science company. So we'll talk about villains, right? So I had a chance to go work with like ministries of health around the world, supranationals like UN and all this stuff. USAID actually, which wasn't corrupt on the front end, but on the recipient end, don't even get me started. At best 45 cents on every dollar is received by the intended recipient at best. So we have this huge program going dollar per dollar. That's the goal. But anyway, there's bad actors there, and I realized that there was literally nothing I could do. The only way actually to make decent business, right, was to essentially forfeit your right as a law-abiding citizen, because the big actors like big pharma or big medical, they would drop the accounts that were huge accounts that needed goods, and the only way that you'd be able to do business on the receivable end is corruption, right? So then you get stuck with 3 million of corruption. So either you go bankrupt or you engage, and we refused to engage. So made our stand there. Then the thing with China came out with the Uyghurs. We tried to relocate the supply chain, and I was voted down by the shareholders. So it is what it is. Sold my position, went to TradFi, deployed some capital there, did well. I mean, I taught myself, and it was just I got lucky. I got lucky. I didn't really know what the hell I was doing, and I don't really recommend like TA or like speculation, especially now. But anyway, long story short, got into emergent tech, and I realized that the main problems that I saw in international trade, especially with government contracting, with U.S. taxpayer funds being deployed overseas, economic development or foreign disasters. I mean, you remember Haiti, what an issue Haiti was.
I mean, I
Yeah,
wasn't involved in uncovering all the corruption, but I just know it happens. I mean, I've been to several third world countries, and I know what people do when they come in there and
oh yeah.
make deals.
Yeah, and the vultures are the people that the public at large thinks are the good guys.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. There's no
Yeah,
question
yeah,
about
yeah.
it. So let's go quickly to vultures in crypto, and as you so properly introduced them as villains. So first of all, the most recent example you were just telling me before we started about Celsius. Tell me who the villains are and what did they do in Celsius?
Well, so they're like I'd say the current villains. Like we've had our fair share. Obviously, we have too many, and we have to weed them out, separate the wheat from the chaff. The untalented, and the villains, the talented and the leaders, the virtuous, the one who should be powering our youth, and are absent right now, but they won't be forever. So the Celsius network, I mean, everything's speculation until it's not, right? So an examiner is investigating everything. I can give you all the claims. So Alex Mashinsky, he was the principal shareholder. He started in Israel, did a raise, may have done it under fraudulent pretenses. Then a Series B in UK, there may have been fraudulent pretenses. Again, until you have the financials, and what are you gonna say? You know what I mean? And these things are
Mhm.
not public.
Yeah.
And then you look on chain and how he's moving money around. He had complete disregard for the community. He was all of his act Alex anything things, right? That's his big thing that he used to do was just constant BS to increase trust, to establish a community, which he did a very good job in. Only thing was he was robbing them blind. So now allegedly live, right, blind. So right, we've identified some major points of alleged criminality, and we're exploring them now, and they were making a lot of headway. But that doesn't. But also understand that doesn't have much bearing on the bankruptcy proceedings, which is so messed up. It blows my mind, right?
So we've had Alex on the show, and I'm going to link to that episode down below. Obviously, none of this came up. This was around this time last year. So what's going on in the bankruptcy proceedings that has you like upset?
No, I mean I'm upset that we cannot conclude criminal investigations before we accept bids. Period. I mean that's number one. I mean above all else, like let's make sure there's no criminality or let's say embezzlement before we have a bid that concludes and determines everyone's future. That's one. And then if you want to go into more, I can get into a lot more. I mean, the process of bidding is opaque, and there's been a divide and conquer sort of campaign on Twitter, so there's been no unification. But all these things were
What do you mean by bidding?
so you have to submit a bid to buy the distressed assets or buy
Yep.
different facets or
In
different
bankruptcy
assets
court.
in bankruptcy court, correct.
Yeah.
And then the judge recently ruled sort of welcoming. I have no problem with the judge. I do have a problem with them having defaulted to New York jurisdiction because that should have never occurred. They're Delaware incorporated and operated in New Jersey, but
Yeah.
whatever. It's technical. But anyway, I mean, long story short, it's he sort of like, kind of welcomed, pro se, uh, people representing themselves to get their tokens back. And this is all while we're trying to get people together and say, okay, guys, we voluntarily sacrifice, right? A haircut. We come together. We will lead the way for the crypto community. So, okay, when tragedy happens, we come together, we take a mutual haircut, right? Like a proportionate haircut, a reasonable, a just haircut together as a unified group, and then do a reorg. But instead, I mean, up until then, everyone just wants to kill each other on Twitter. I mean, you can see it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So anyway, no more of that. So we're trying to lead by example. We're forming alliances, partnerships, and we're just going to ask. We made big news today. It's going to come out tomorrow. And in light of that, we were just asking the judges, listen, please prolong the deadline, so we can do a proper reorg, pending the outcome of the investigation by the examiner.
Okay. And what are they investigating? What you discussed earlier today? You could just say it.
Yeah, well, so I mean, so number one, we don't technically know anything, right? That
Right.
the examiner, in terms of criminality, is investigating. I mean, today, and again, nothing's verified until it's verified, right? But we had identified a $688 million, let's say, reported by the Defiant publications, popular publication, realized losses that had occurred within MakerDAO, one of the major lending protocols in DeFi, and we had not been able to identify where that occurred with WBTC and Celsius Network Vault. All analysts, we spent like forever on it. Like, what the heck's going on here? We reached out for comment, didn't get it. Then we sent it over. We teamed up with some of the guys at Maker. They couldn't find it. And we're like, okay. So this is $788 million. Did they peg that as unrealized losses on their financials? Was that two-thirds of the way that it got them to restrict and then file? So essentially, the way we see it is that filing for Chapter 11 was a profitable exit scheme by Alex Mashinsky, likely co-conspiring with another big name in the space, which is should be clear to everyone at this place. I mean, FTX looks to us that they had played a role, but everyone wants to be sponsored by FTX, so I can't bring them up whenever I'm on a podcast. So, oh, Alameda Research, oh, you're so fantastic. Now, Sam, we'll bring him down if we have to, right? So it's like, no, we're hunting the villains, and we don't give an issue they are.
And what's motivating you to hunt these villains down? And what tools and resources do you have to do it?
Yeah, so we have the backers who are highly vested in the long-term prospects of emergent tech more broadly. The crypto sphere has kind of put itself front and center just because it's what the youth kind of catches on to first, and also because we're years sort of the technology's there, but the mass adoption's not there in terms of applicable machine learning to the consumer. It's sort of built in the pie. They don't really know that it's happening, right? And it's usually software as a service or something like that. They're not seeing AI as it exists or it could exist today. But what are they seeing? They're seeing Dogecoin. They're speculating on it, and this thing going on the move. This guy getting a Lamborghini, and blah 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 blah. But then they're seeing great stuff like what is money, right? Like it's like some of the Bitcoin philosophies. People getting orange pilled on what money actually is and what it ought be versus what currency fiat is, and that's a good thing. And so what we do is like we're promoting what's good in the space and like elevating them, and then we created a private foundation so that people can fight the ish without having to be publicly named, and for there to be like mob reprisal, which we know is the case because we live in an interesting era. Although we may be seeing a shift in the winds, time
Yeah,
will
let's
tell.
hope so. Now,
That's all.
but what tools and resources do you have? You have an organization that does all this and
Yeah,
aggregates
yeah.
and does the investigation?
Sure. So I mean, the investigation we leave to the state. We have sources through various institutions. I mean, again, I used to do a lot of foreign disaster relief.
Yeah.
So like I have a lot of people like Department of Commerce that were former ministers of well, whatever, right? Of agriculture, of commerce, of health, whatever it is, now retired, right? Big friends that were former intelligence, no longer intelligence, former military, no longer military. They have networks. So it's just like we have a wide network of people who are just in the know in various areas. And then like we just have my experience with international trade and federal contracting. So we have two causes effectively that we're focused on, the Celsius Network cause and the USAID cause, so that we can track all taxpayer dollars on the blockchain, which would be a beautiful thing, right? And we can get into all those implications if you'd like. But essentially, yeah, weed out the bad actors, man. Just to disincentivize corruption from even just going into politics. That would be a great start.
What's your theory on what actually happened at Celsius? Do you think they went into it knowing it's a scam, or
No,
do you think
no.
Alex had good intentions and then didn't manage the process properly?
So, okay. Oh, wait, like, I have a hard time impugning intent. I don't know Alex personally.
Yeah.
I don't. I know people who do know him, and they don't have many qualms with him. They said, he was the right guy. I know he fibbed a bit because I know people in the IDF, and he made some claims relative to his experience there in Israel. But whatever. I mean, people aren't perfect. So, I mean, I can't tell you what his original intent was, but I can tell you, I can speculate that at the end, there was two major market drawdowns. I think one was in like September, and then they had a Series B in November. The other one, I think, was roughly December or something like that, like right after the Series B. And I think it was kind of like around that point where they realized that they were over leveraged and they were taking risks, really unmitigated risks, and their processes weren't standardized in the back end. So it was a mess. The books were a mess. They were swapping things around. They were doing things they shouldn't have done. I'm not saying it rises to gross neglect or malfeasance, but I'm saying that that he knew this was happening, and he was a CEO, so the buck stops with him, right? So what was his intent? I mean, back then, at what point did he switch over? Eventually, it's our belief that he intended to push Celsius into Chapter 11. That was the intent. That was an expressed
Not from the
intent.
beginning, but at some
No,
point.
I mean from inception, no,
Okay.
I doubt it.
All right. So his intent was to move to Chapter 11, but how does he benefit in Chapter 11?
Well, I mean, there's 1,001 ways he could benefit. So, like, let's say that there was a series of criminal actions that occurred throughout, the course of him being CEO that just aren't being reported on, right? So we reported on a $688 million shortfall, right? So that's one, for example, right? So show me those realized losses in the books, right? Show me them because I can't find them on chain, or else there's $688 million USD of WBTC sitting around, right? That's number one. Number two, I'll give you a great example. So again, like I said, I have friends in investment banks, central banks, you name it, right? I'm not proud of it, they're not proud of it either, but that's what they work, right? So whatever, it's how it is. Anyway, the
Right.
point is this, that we get reached out to right after the restriction of withdrawals. So it's like, Mike, like, wasn't your friend? 'Cause I know a guy and a guy, so I was friend with a guy, and then I read Celsius Network. I was like, all right, like they're good. That's what I thought. Stupid of me. Never again, single point of failure, right? What are we thinking? Cold storage, obviously. Anyway, not your keys, not your token. Like that's the Bitcoin thing. Anyway, so I get contacted by a source that I have, and we know that Alex is preparing or had been preparing for some amount of time, undisclosed, between the restrictions and Chapter 11 to sell $2 billion worth of digital assets off the Celsius Network's balance sheets. Okay. So
Okay.
I know that for certain. Yeah. So, I mean, can we subpoena them? Yeah, but then we'd have to oust the source. So what we're trying to do right now is we're not trying to win by putting this guy in jail. That's not the aim.
Yeah.
Sure, there can be collection and the aim is just there's been so many people effed by this, like in ways that would not. I mean, it wouldn't surprise you, but like it's just terrible.
Yeah.
Just really terrible. We want to see them made whole as reasonably as possible, as soon as possible, and for people not to go bankrupt in mass in 2021 tax extensions, which is going to happen, and 2022 come tax season, unless there is a reasonable resolve. So we're trying to broker all the groups right now, and there's some great lawyers out there. Adler's one of them who represent loans. I don't know if you know David Adler.
Mm-mm.
He's someone. He's one of the good guys in the space. Right? And then there's somebody else that we're not formal yet, so we're not announcing it. But the idea is bring these guys together I mean, outside of executive management, obviously in Celsius, but and yeah, we believe like possibly a joint venture, for example, with this community reorg, all sacrificing, let's say, a 30% haircut or something, right?
Yeah.
And then adopting U.S. stable coins, Ethereum and Bitcoin, so we have no regulatory issues. We do something to resolve, sell maybe a USD, handout after an 18-month lockdown period, and then we get the IP from a joint venture through like Simon Dixon, who's been making all these proposals, or Sean Owen from Salt Lending. He's a high integrity actor that we know of through another friend. They've been around for a while, and he doesn't want to see CeFi burn because he's CeFi, right? And it's just like we want to preserve the space and not give the regulators a reason to crush us. And we are begging for it, man. We're begging. And we're just trying to just stop that rate from happening. Just like slow it down, guys. Let's just not get crushed that fast. Slow it down.
Okay. So all in all, it sounds as if there's still a lot of information that's going to come forward, but you feel
Oh,
like,
dude.
hey, there's $680 million missing. Where did it go?
You
And
sure?
no one's been
Yeah.
able to account for it. So it's either in somebody's pocket or it's something else that you haven't been able to figure out yet, or the state hasn't been able to figure out yet.
Well, yeah. So we submitted to the examiner today.
Okay. Wow.
So we remember because it's not okay. So we will do what we'll need to do with Alex so
Yeah.
he doesn't get more VC funding and hurt more people. But when it comes to our strategy, it's not winning the criminal case. It's getting the best outcome for the depositors,
Yep.
for the investors who didn't know any better, for I mean the people in loans. I mean all these people. I mean it's like also like no one cares about the tenant, like they care about. It's like no one cares about the guy who like owns the building. They just care about the people in the. It's like, but both of them are struggling, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Both of them are equally effed by the guy above them.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. We're just bringing that guy and that guy together and saying, hey guys, hold hands and quit it with the nonsense. And some of them are not going to get a voice in this because some of
Uh,
them are so unreasonable that it's just not going to happen.
yeah, exactly. All right. So let's wrap it up by how do you identify villains, and then how do you avoid investing in their projects? Do you have a simple formula we can all follow?
So we sort of do. So you mean in terms of like individuals and game theory, or like projects and like VC or
I
in
would
crypto?
say projects and kind of identifying nefarious actors ahead of time so that you don't get caught up in these things.
Well, I was always look for like pathological compassion, pathological nihilism, and I mean ego. I mean the more competent the people I know, the more humble, the more
Yeah.
humility they exhibit. Which tends to be hold true, right? But also it's mutual value exchange. So on a one-on-one level, and then I'll tell you the company just real quick. One-on-one is I'll always throw a one out. I'll always do a favor. I'll always do it, especially if I respect the person. And I just want to see. I'm not doing it expecting something, but I'm just wanting to see if they feel that right, that drive that we have, right, for mutual value exchange, that reciprocity drive. That's an indicator for me. Because when I work on big contracts, I need everything I can get. On the
Yeah.
VC end, it's simple. What's the advisory board? Does the chief engineer, is you want an exit, get out. No founder who's going in it for the exit, invest in it, ever. Screw that guy, screw him and the horse he rode in on. Does he have his biz dev yin yang? And is that sustainable? Right? Because if it's just the engineer, just the biz dev, they're not going to go anywhere. So what's the impressions, so to speak, of their advisors, right? What's their reach? Who are the two core front leaders? They both have an alpha synergistic relationship that's long lasting. And then the last one, really, and it's just ridiculous, but it's just the case, is the utility and its market fit, et cetera, depending on the venture capitalists. Because some people are fine with like a 10-year horizon, right? But in terms of just placing your bets, those would be the three areas that I look at.
Okay.
I would
All right.
avoid DAOs that are completely anonymous with zero accountability. Just so happens we happen to have a few good ones that really stand out.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't
Well,
ignore
they're good
those.
so far.
They're
So we
good so
really
far.
hope.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
there's been a lot of bad ones too, but I'm a big believer in DAOs. But I agree, when they're anonymous, there better be somebody that knows who they are. I know why people do it anonymously, but there are groups that will,
Yeah.
take your information, not release it, but vouch for these people that they know who they are, they know where to find them, and they have assets. in the
Yeah,
event
we found
something goes
solutions
wrong.
to this issue. We found solutions. We
Yeah,
want to deploy the solutions. A lot of it has to do with just the jurisdiction of where you incorporate.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
how, I
All
mean,
right.
that's like half of it right there.
All right. So, Michael, pleasure to have you on. We should do more of these. We should go in and analyze these villains and maybe a few good ones too. And love to have you back on the show.
I gotta say, man, I'm really happy that like you're bringing cool into crypto, bro. For real,
That might be
dude.
my new tagline.
You are, dude. Man, keep it. That's yours. I'm telling you, we need it in there. We want mass adoption, and it is our opt-out. It is counterculture. It's punk rock, and we need more people like you doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it.
For real.
Thank you, buddy. Hi, I'm Mark Fidella with Smart Blocks. I'm giving you my tip of the week. This is the crypto tip of the week. It's called Tetragard. You can see it right here. This is the world's first decentralized crypto ETF, which has Bitcoin, PaxG, Ethereum, and this fee token called Quadrant. You want to learn more about it? Go to tetragard.io. This is a big buy for you right now.